Hey guys, it's Jodi here with Honeysuckle Hill Bee-stro, and I have Beau Bayh, who's running for Secretary of State on the Democrat ticket. Beau, thanks so much for coming to the table.
Thanks so much for having me, Jodi.
I'm so excited about this. Full disclosure, you're my very first Democrat that I've ever had at the table.
I feel honored.
Are you?
my dad and I came to the Father's Day brunch here, so you at least had two back there.
Yeah.
But...
Well, we've had Democrats, but nobody that I've really had an interview with. So I've been looking forward to this because I think it's important. The whole reason why we're doing these videos is because I feel like as politicians, most people, or, once you're elected to office, that most people look at politicians as being characters and not real humans. And so my whole idea of doing this is to make you all seem more human, and that's why we focus on food here, because we all eat and we all share that in common. So,
and oftentimes the best moments in your life are shared around a table, right?
That's right.
The people you love, your friends, your family, sharing stories, even grief sometimes. Food can help with that. So, it's great to be here.
Well, good. I'm glad to have you. So, okay, there's a million stories out there. You have had so much written about you your whole entire life because of the family that you grew up in, And so I kind of want to go a little bit different route than what maybe most people ask, because people complained out a million things about you and the Bayh side of your family. So I want to start first. When did you decide that you wanted to join the Marines, and what was the catalyst?
Yeah, so I, like a lot of people, my granddad, Birch, who's actually from Vigo County, Shirkyville, was a farmer there. He was in the Army after World War II, and so I kind of grew up hearing stories about him executing the Marshall Plan in post-war Europe. That was devastated, and he brought some of his skills as a farmer, an Indiana farmer, to Germany and helped some of the people there grow their own crops and feed their families. And so he kind of told me those stories growing up about making an impact in the military. And I've been very lucky, Jodi, in my life. I've had many doors open to me, many blessings bestowed on me, and I feel like everyone has some obligation to give back to their country. I love my country, and there's many ways to serve, thankfully. The military is just one of them, but it's something that I kind of always thought about doing.
So even as a little boy, you were like,
oh, my brother and I played toy soldiers all the time.
I did.
All the time. But I had always had a penchant for the Marine Corps, and he ended up joining the Army. So sometimes we staged a little bit different battles, but I'd always want to do the Marine battles, and you want to do the Army ones. But and I love being outdoors growing up as a kid in the woods, and what I ended up doing in the Marine Corps involved a lot of being outside and field craft and things like that.
Okay. So, I want to talk about some of the negatives, because I feel like whenever there's negatives, said about you, you should always have the ability to address those yourself, because sometimes the negatives really aren't negatives, So where did you grow up? Because that's one of the things that my algorithms, as a Republican, that, there's a question of,
Yeah, so I was born in Indianapolis, seventh generation of my family born here in the state of Indiana. We moved when I was young because my dad was serving our state in Congress. So when I was 4 years old, I didn't have much of a choice over where we moved.
Exactly.
But that being said, and I can only speak for myself, but when your mom or your dad is representing your state in the United States Senate or the House of Representatives, you almost feel like a representative in your own way. And I was very proud of where we came from. I knew that I would always come back to Indiana. I love my state. It's where my family lives now. And every adult decision I've made since I've had agency to do so has been, how do I get back to our state? So I've voted in every election here since I was 18. I didn't have to do that, but you vote in a place that you want to have a say in who your elected officials are. I paid income taxes here for the past 8 years. That's not always a fun thing to do. And I took my oath of office as a Marine in the War Memorial in downtown Indy. So I love this state, and I've not always lived my entire life here, but this is a place that's important to me.
But I'm going to just say this, because I have friends that had kids, when they served in Congress, and they lived, closer to D.C., and they still had a home in Indiana. I don't know if your family still maintained a home. So you still maintained a home in Indiana. And I see those boys having almost more of an obligation and a love for Indiana, because they realized that they were kind of ambassadors for the state, even as kids. I don't know if you felt that.
I did. Like I said, I felt And take the political party completely out of it. I'm sure it's the same for Republican representatives in the Congress. You feel as a child, I mean, you're talking to your dad at the dinner table every night, and you're asking, "Hey, Dad, how was work today?" He says, "I'm working on this bill to help such and such people back home in Indiana, bringing money back to fund this project in Indiana." So of course it's around all the time, and we're back and forth all the time for campaign events or seeing family. Or going to IU football games, not when they were good. So I did feel in my own way like I was a representative a little bit.
So I'm going to just say this: that's kind of an unfair criticism of you. So I'll just say that. Okay, so much is out there about your Bayh side of the family and the legacy that you have for that. That you have this political patriarchy, and I look at that and I think, okay, there's lots of farmers that are, 5, 6 generation farmers. Same thing with police officers, clergy. But it's almost like, okay, well, if you see that you want to do politics because you've seen what your family has done in politics, then that's bad. And so I feel like that's kind of an unfair
thing. I think it's goes to show the way people feel about politicians. Today, it wasn't always the case, but today, being a politician is almost like a dirty word. And in my experience, when I was growing up, the reason that I've decided to do this with my life is not just because my dad or my granddad did it, obviously, but it does impact you as a young person growing up, seeing the impact they're able to have on their state and their country. For example, one of the things my granddad did when he was in the United States Senate is he authored an amendment to the Constitution. At a time during the Vietnam War, young men were fighting and dying for our country, but didn't have the right to vote because the voting age was 21. And so he authored an amendment to the Constitution to lower it to 18. And, it made common sense. If you're old enough to fight and die for your country, you ought to be able to have a say.
I did not know that was your grandfather.
And so you just hear those stories. And my dad, when he was governor of our state, instituted the 21st Century Scholars Program, which is a lot. It basically, if a kid in Indiana, they maintain a certain GPA, they stay off drugs, they stay out of trouble, they can obtain a college degree without debt to one of our amazing schools here. And that's allowed hundreds of thousands of Hoosier kids to go to school debt-free and have great, fulfilling lives. And you just hear those stories growing up. You want to live a similarly consequential life and give back, and that does inspire you to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to address that because I feel like that's another unfair thing. It's not like you were, following your dad. Your dad was in Indiana politics, then he went to the U.S. Senate, and then he's been out for a long time. It's not like you've been following your dad around, this is going to be the one who inherits after he's done. You didn't inherit the position after he was done. It's been several decades.
And there may be
certain people in between.
To be fair to the critics, there may be certain politicians that do feel an entitlement. That's not me. I've been working my butt off for the past 9 months, getting all around our state, talking to anyone from any political party about the importance of this office and this campaign, and I don't feel entitled to anything. I just want the opportunity to talk to people and explain why our plans for this office. That's all I'm asking for, a fair shot.
So, okay, that's the Bayh side of your family. What about the maternal side of the family? What kind of legacy do you have from your maternal side?
So my mom was from Southern California.
Okay.
And she...
So I want to know how your mom and dad met. Sorry.
Okay. This is a great story. I'm glad you asked. It's actually, they met at a restaurant. And, so both of my grandmas met each other at the 1968 Democratic Convention. Bobby Kennedy was running for president. My grandma on my mom's side really loved Bobby Kennedy. And so they met at that convention. My dad was single, my mom was single, both politically kind of inclined. They kept in touch for a few years, and they said, hey, we should set them up on a date here. So they met on a blind date, and my dad wears contact lenses. But that night, he had not gotten his contact lenses yet. He wears glasses, but he was self-conscious, and he said, I'm not going to wear the glasses tonight. I don't want to see her to see those on, or me with those on. And so he didn't wear them. They sit down at the table. He could not really see her that well, but loved her personality. And then the second date ended up wearing his new contact lenses and said, oh my gosh, she's beautiful too. And the rest is history. And they had a loving marriage, and I could not have asked for better parents. They put everything they had into me and my brother. But just get back to the original point of your question. She's from Southern California. She put herself through law school at USC, waiting tables and doing beauty pageants. And she would always say, growing up, that there were maybe some prettier girls in the pageants, but they ask you questions about geopolitics or history, and she would just clean up on those questions. So but they pay you a little bit, and that would go toward her law school tuition. And then she's an attorney as well, and ended up moving to Indiana with my dad and starting a life there and working for some great. She was taught law briefly, or business law at Butler in Indy, but I think she would tell you if she was here today, 90% of her time was spent on making sure me and my brother had everything we needed.
Yeah. She was a mama first.
She was a mama bear. 100%.
Good deal. So what about your grandparents on your mom's side? So your grandma was involved in Democrat politics, but what about your grandfather? What did they do?
So my grandma was a newsroom editor at a local Fox station in Long Beach, California. That's right. Worked until she was 81 maybe or something. She just loved it. Completely. And then my grandpa was I know this is going to sound crazy, he was a rocket scientist at NASA. So
my gosh, you just got all the brains.
Well, I didn't inherit his love of science anyway, but so he was really involved in working on the Mars rover, if you remember when that happened, and some other space programs they had, and then briefly worked at the NSA as well. But he went to Caltech. He's I think my brother inherited the love of math and science, and I maybe steered more toward the humanities, but he was just he's a great man. He's still alive today, and they live in Newport Beach,
Are
California.
both of them still alive?
My grandma passed away, unfortunately, but my grandpa's still living in Newport Beach.
So how often did you get to see them then, since they were in Southern California?
Not too often, but they would make a point to come travel out for Christmas, Thanksgiving, those types of things. And they made the effort to get near me and my brother. And my grandpa, he had an obsession with videotaping everything. I'm sure a lot of grandparents and parents do. Had to get everything on film. And so I remember growing up, this sticking out in my mind, him just carrying around this camera. He had one of these kind of bulky cameras. And
do you know what his face looked like? I did.
Yeah, of course. But I remember, so my brother and I, we had joint birthday parties, obviously, we were twins. And so we had one year, we said, okay, we're going to get a lot of our friends together and go paintballing, okay? And so my grandpa said, okay, I'm going to be out there. So he's got the mask on, he's filming, he's getting shot. And we played the tapes back later on, 5 or 6 years later, and you could just hear him go, he's getting shot while he's filming everything. So
I love it.
But he wanted to just have this memory of us that we could look back on, and so he's just a great person. I'm very lucky.
I love it. I love it. So did your grandma? What was your mom's maiden name then?
Brashear.
Brashear. Okay, so did your grandma Brashear? Did she kind of give you tips, or I don't know? Were you old enough for her to give you tips on how to handle yourself with the press and things like that?
I never really asked her about that. That's a good question. She, in a local Fox, they didn't do much politics. I think it was mostly local news stories, and to the extent they were doing politics, I think it was kind of not super in depth. But she was definitely politically minded. She knew it was important that people should involve themselves in politics and be aware of the issues and support people, because that makes an impact on your community and your state. And I'm very glad for that, because she's instilled the importance of that in me as well. And I think more than anything, she taught me how important a good work ethic was, because she had a great work ethic. She worked every day of her life until she was 80 years old.
Wow, that is crazy.
And saving up money and being very conscious with not spending too much and all that. Just good qualities to build as a young person.
Good for her. Yeah. And then your grandpa Burge, how old were you when he passed away?
So I was in the Marine Corps. I think I was about 25 or so. Okay. Yeah, this was about 5 years ago.
So he was probably pretty active in your life. I mean, you saw him on a more regular basis?
Yeah, I did, because he ended up retiring to Easton, Maryland. So when we were living in the D.C. area, that's a little closer to get to. But he made a big impact on my life as well, and just a great. So he was born in Terre Haute, like my dad was, on our family farm there, and raised corn and soybeans and some pigs as well, which is great. We had the Porkchops today, and then ran for the State House when he was only 26. And was elected Speaker of the House in Indiana in his 20s. And so that was a pretty, a great accomplishment to be that young. And then ended up
Was he the youngest for a while?
I don't want to misspeak, but I think he may have been the youngest, maybe ever. Okay. I'd have to go back and look at that.
I'll look that up too, because that kind of stuff's interesting to me. But go ahead. Sorry.
And then he ran for the United States Senate in 1962. So John Kennedy had just been elected. And so there was kind of a push toward getting younger, more idealistic people involved in politics. He idolized John Kennedy, And that's what kind of allowed him to do it, or got him thinking about it, and then was successful. But he only won by, I think it was 1 or 2 votes per precinct.
Oh, wow.
So it was a very close election.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show in politics, it can come down to a coin toss sometimes.
That's right.
But then lived at served several terms in the United States Senate and was able to accomplish some really great things for our country, in my opinion, and has a fantastic legacy and was a great granddad and father to my dad too.
Yeah. So did he babysit you guys very much since he was so close?
Sometimes he would, and he was a farmer, and so he once sold the farm, but he would always keep a garden in the back just because he loved loved agriculture.
Yeah.
And I just remember he grew these great tomatoes, and he loved tomatoes, and he would take them right off the vine and eat it like an apple. And I never adopted that kind of method, but no, he would just show, we'd grow things together, and he'd show, this is how you gotta tend to the plants and all that. And he's just he also was a Golden Gloves boxer in Indiana.
Oh, really?
So he was a big athlete, as what my dad was too. So I think my dad and my granddad instilled in me the importance of being physically fit and involving yourself in athletics, and because it teaches good work ethic and discipline, teamwork, things like that. I think up until a few weeks before he passed away, he was still walking a few miles on the track every day.
Oh,
so he
wow.
was,
good for him.
Great guy.
Good for him. Awesome. All right, this is another off-the-cuff question. What's your favorite part about being a twin?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. I think just having a built-in friend. From the moment you're born, you need someone to play one-on-one basketball with, you got it. You need someone to play video games with, you got it. You need someone to tease, you got it. So it's great to have someone you go through so many similar experiences in your life, which is true of a lot of siblings, but I think it's a little unique, just be exactly the same age going through it. So that's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, and especially the fact that you guys kind of lived in a glass house, and so to have somebody else to experience that with you, because nobody else is going to have that same experience.
I got a good story about that. So my dad was briefly considered to be for the vice presidency.
In my mind, I gotta, sorry to stop you.
No, go ahead.
But in my mind, I keep on thinking he was vice president.
Sometimes he might think he's vice president. I don't know. But, so, when you're going through that, the news cameras stake out your house, all this stuff. And I remember my dad was taking me to, I think it was football practice. I could be wrong, but it was practice anyway, football or basketball. And so every time we'd leave the house, all these news cameras would run and try and ask him questions. They'd follow the car up the driveway. And so we get out one day. My dad doesn't shut the door of the SUV the trunk, and my football helmet and pads just start rolling out of the back down the hill. And so he's now thinking, oh gosh, I got to go do this. And now the press comes in, these football pads are asking him all these questions. And so, you said living in the glass house. That's just one. I remember looking out. I always kind of felt, my dad, this made as a testament to the kind of man he was and father, but I always kind of felt he had any other job. He's just, he worked for the government, but I didn't sense that it was maybe as important as some other people would make you seem to believe. But I remember looking out our kitchen window and seeing these cameras stationed. I'm like, okay, there's something different going on here, right? But it's nice to have someone like your brother you can confide in if something's bugging you or something like that. And my mom and dad were great too.
Yeah. Anyway, not very many people are twins either. You've got a lot of unique experiences in life that a lot of people don't have. So that's why I just kind of wanted to touch on
I was born first. I never let him forget it. Never let him forget it. But he did end up growing a little bit taller than me. So he's got me on that.
Well, at least he's got that on you. So you can't let that. Okay, so let's talk about the Office of Secretary of State and what it does and how, not like the big overbroad, but specifically what it does for everyday Hoosiers.
Yeah, so there are 4 kind of divisions of the office. The first is the elections division. So when Hoosiers go to vote in the fall, the Secretary of State's responsible for making sure that state law is being followed. And if you cast your ballot, you should have the confidence that it's being counted correctly, all of those things. Then you have the securities division of this office. So the Secretary of State is entrusted with the ability to investigate allegations of securities fraud in our state. So if you offer a security in our state, you have to register it with the Secretary of State's office, and any allegations of fraud are investigated by this office and then the findings are passed on to the Attorney General. And then you have the business division. So when you, as a new business owner in our state, register an LLC, you want to start found your company, you do that through the Secretary of State's office as well. And then the fourth part is the auto dealership division. So there's all types of state laws that regulate the way auto dealers have to operate in our state. So those are the four kind of responsibilities of this office. The election part probably gets the most public attention, but the other three are really important too. So
it seems like a lot for one office.
Yeah, it's expanded. My dad was actually Secretary of State. It was his first office, and they didn't do the auto dealer thing when he was Secretary of State. I'm not sure they did the securities part of it either, but they always had the election piece. He was just, while I'm thinking about it, so there was a very contentious recount when he was right after he had been elected Secretary of State, one of these congressional seats, and
was it the 8th by any chance?
I think it was up north somewhere. I could be wrong, but folks at home can look this up. It was 1987, maybe 86 or 87, something like that. And my dad was a Democrat, but had to oversee the recount and cast the deciding vote on who he thought should win, and voted to seat the Republican congressman. So you can imagine that did not make him a popular guy in D.C., but he used it as a teaching point to me growing up. As a public official, you should not do things that make your party happy. You should do things that are right for your state and your country. And he looked at the evidence, he looked at the facts, and came to the conclusion that the Republican had won the race. So it's just doing the right but hard thing is sometimes hard in politics, or people don't always do that. But I think when folks are making decisions about who to support in this, they should look for that kind of character and quality. Yeah. So that's just a story I heard growing up from him.
I did not know that. I was alive. I should have been paying attention.
And you know what? So the story in the Indy Star the next morning, talk about a great headline. It said, "By, an honest man." You can't get
wow. That's, So is that what you were trying to attain to, a headline like that?
Well, I try to attain to do the right thing. The headlines are great if you get them, but I think the most important thing is that you do the right thing.
Yeah.
That one of the most important parts that I didn't mention, which is now talked a lot about in politics, is this office is responsible for maintaining the campaign finance transparency portal. And so when people are donating to campaigns here in our state, the Secretary of State's office is responsible for making that transparent, or at least as transparent as possible to the public. One of the big issues I have with the way the office is being run currently is if the viewers at home, try and go on this campaign finance portal, they almost make it as hard as possible by design to see who's funding whose campaign. And I would want this to operate just like the search engines that we use every day, Google or any of the other ones. You should be able to type in John Doe, and every campaign contribution for whatever office they're running for should immediately populate. It should be very intuitive. Right now, it's almost hard by design to find out who's funding whose campaign, which degrades trust in our public officials and in our politics generally, which I don't think is a good thing.
Right. So is that just for federal and state office holders, or is that even local office holders?
I believe it's local as well.
Oh, nice.
I believe it's local as well. Nice. So it's an important thing. We should all have transparency into who's funding whose campaign.
Do you have any idea how many elected officials there are in Indiana? Clear down, to township trustee up to U.S. Senate.
I can hazard a guess.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I'm going to say, is it?
I don't know. So.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Then what do you think? I should ask you.
Gosh, I think it would be well over 60,000.
60,000. Okay. I was going to go a little lower, but.
But I could be wrong. I'm just thinking about our county, like the townships. You've got your advisory boards.
School boards, too.
And school boards. You've got your council. Yeah. Then all the towns and their councils and their mayors and their clerk treasurers. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I
I was going to go with a few thousand. That was going to be my guess, but I may be way under. But.
I think, no, I like in our county, I think we have 11 townships. So that's 5 people in each township right there, and their advisory boards.
Yep.
Well, 4 people.
And the county council is how big here?
7.
7.
And then you have 3 commissioners in all but 2 counties. And then your mayors and your city councils and stuff. I think you got a bigger job than what you think.
We can make a bet. Well, I do know for relevant to this job, there is a county clerk in every county, and the Secretary of State works very closely with the county clerks to certify election results and things like that. Right. So we have 92 county clerks, which is very important.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you think that there's more small businesses, and small businesses being not multi-million-dollar businesses or billion-dollar businesses in Indiana, that the Secretary of State's over than opposed to the multi-billion, million-dollar businesses?
I'm sure there are more small businesses. I'm sure, and it's extremely important because there are more people rely on them in our state, and we should have support business owners to found businesses, reduce red tape where it's possible, get government out of the way, and let these people, grow their companies in an amazing way that they can employ people, provide for their livelihoods, pay taxes in our economy that fund our schools and roads, and make sure our police and firefighters are taken care of. So anything we can do as a state to support small business owners, reduce bureaucracy, reduce red tape, we should do that.
So I'll tell you this, if you get in, one thing that I'm asking you to do as a small business owner, when we started the business 10 years ago, we didn't know about personal business property tax.
Yeah.
Now with the new SB1, we fall under where we're not obligated for that one because we don't make that much money. But we got dinged and had to go to the sheriff's office to pay our personal property tax, whatever it was called, because I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah.
There's no nice, tidy little checklist of what you need as a small business owner, of all your obligations to the state and to the county and all that good stuff. So it'd be nice if there was a nice, tidy little checklist for new business owners.
One of the things I hope to accomplish, this is a broader point with this office, is that unfortunately a lot of the tools which the office oversees, particularly with the business division, have not been used to help the small business owner. Instead, they've been used as a means to promote the office holder himself. And so if you go, just as an example, if you go to the business division of the Secretary of State's office website, and you click on the button, I want to start a business, you see a bunch of pictures of the current office holder and information about him, and you got to scroll to the end of the page where you see something called the Small Business Development Center. It's a great resource in our state. If you click into that, it makes new business owners aware of lines of credit that may be open to them, different requirements where you got to, if you're this close to a power line, you have to do this with your business. Great information. Yeah. The problem is that it doesn't, not that it doesn't exist. The problem is that if the office holder,
don't know.
you got to use the office as a means to benefit the business owner, and not as a means of self-promotion, right? So that's one of the things I hope to do, as just a broader point.
Yeah. So let's talk about the election division. A lot of talk about voter ID at the federal level. We have a voter ID law here in Indiana. You yay or nay?
I support the voter ID law. I think it makes common sense. Look, the state provides it at no cost to the voter, and so it's a low barrier, and it makes common sense to keep our elections secure. You got to be able to prove who you say you are when you go to vote, so we know you're an eligible voter. So I'm in favor of the voter ID law.
So what do you think we do right in Indiana whenever it comes to elections?
I think we do a good job. There's a great program called the Hoosier Hall Pass program, and so this allows kids in high school who are below the age of 18, but you get all the requisite sign-offs from your teachers and all that, to go work at the election places. And I think we do a relatively good job of encouraging people to work at their polling place. Programs like that are great. I worked at my polling place during the primaries, and the more we get people involved in seeing how it operates, the more faith we can have in the fact that it's being carried out according to the law. So I think we do a relatively good job on that. One thing that I would like us to do better is increasing participation. I think we have secure elections. I think we have very few cases of voter fraud. That being said, one case is too many, and they need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But I think our voter ID law is generally good. We have one of the lowest rates of participation in the country, and so I'd like to see more eligible people participate.
So what do you think attributes to the low voter turnout?
There's a lot of reasons, but this has been a main focus of our campaign. The biggest reason that people don't vote today, at least the research bears this out, and then my anecdotal experience just talking to people, is they feel like their vote doesn't matter. There's a big apathy problem, and people say, because voting, there's a cost to voting in some sense. You have to take, let's say you own a business, and this is time you could spend, doing your taxes or balancing your budget or what have you. You have to, instead of spending that.
I'd rather go vote than do my taxes.
That's a bad example. But let's say you have family. You got to take your son to basketball practice, and this is time you could spend doing other things, but you're going to choose to go vote. You're going to be less likely to vote if you feel like your vote doesn't really make a difference. And so there are some things we can do as a state to increase competition in our elections, which would incentivize people to go participate. And one of the things that I think would do that is ending straight ticket voting. We're one of only 6 states in the country which allows this.
And when did that start? Because I feel like that's been in my lifetime since I've been a voter.
Am I wrong? I'm not positive of when it started. Okay. I know it's been around for a long time now. And when I say I want to get rid of straight ticket voting, and I say that to Democrats in Indianapolis, they're not very happy with it. Right. But I don't support, this gets back to the example with my dad, I don't support policies because they're good for my political party. I support them because they're the right thing to do. And what would happen if we got rid of straight ticket voting, instead of electing people just because the colored jersey they're wearing, which is currently the way it happens, the first page, just to back up a little bit, the first page in your ballot doesn't have a list of names or offices. It just has red team, blue team. And so we get sometimes individuals, in my opinion, like the current Secretary of State, that are not elected on their individual merits because they're the right person for the job, but instead are elected because they're wearing the right colored jersey. And so if we got rid of it, we'd elect people because they're the right person for the job. We'd also have more competition in our elections. And I practice antitrust law. There's a reason we have antitrust laws in our country. If you have one store in town, you can charge consumers whatever price they want or you want. There's no incentive to offer a better product. The same is true in politics. If there's one group in charge of everything, there's no competition. It can lead to some pretty unreasonable results where the office holder doesn't feel any accountability on the part of the voter, right? So regardless if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, I think we can all agree that more competition is good because it makes both sides more accountable to the voter, right?
So, okay, I got a couple things to talk about with that. So, but let's just talk about this. There is more competition in this race because Greg Ballard looks like he's going to be on with the new Lincoln Party. So what I'm hearing from you is that should be okay, even though it might affect your race personally.
I think voters are hungry for more choices and more competition. And so I welcome him into the race. I think we'll have a robust debate about the issues in this election. And all the reasons I just said, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't welcome more competition into this.
So I just did a little bit of search last night. So in Clay County in 24 general election, 30% pulled a straight Republican ticket. And I didn't even give the tally for the Democrats because it was a lot lower. But you're right. In Lake County, in Marion County, Vanderburgh County, those numbers are flipped, and they're higher numbers. So I think you're right on that. Another thing, I'm a little nerd, so bear with me on this, okay? For a long time, I've been thinking, okay, when did we go to a primary system? Because before 1915, I figured it out because I spent some days at the state library doing some research. 1915 is whenever the statewide voter primary law came in, which forced us basically down to 2 parties, because prior to 1915, there were anywhere from 5 to 8 different parties that had platforms in those nice little Secretary of State yearbooks that are in the state library. And whenever we went to the primary system, you got to have 10% to be a legitimate party where you have, primary access. And that creates a whole new party apparatus at the state level and blah, 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 on down. And so since some of these smaller faction parties never got to 10%, they just went into the 2 major parties. And I feel like that it has kind of watered down and has actually weakened. Even though they're strong, it's weakened the ideology and what the 2 parties stand for. And so I see this on the Republican side, that there's like a vast array of different views of what it means to be a Republican. And as an outsider, I'm seeing that on the Democrat side too. I don't think that the primary system really helped with that myself, because whenever you go back, I was just, before you got here, I just was going back to I think it was 1914 socialist party platform.
Yeah.
So much of what we have in law now today was what the socialists had in their platform 111 years ago, 12 years ago. I just don't think I'd love the primary system.
Yeah, it's. I understand your concern, particularly when the taxpayer's funding it.
Right.
One of the big issues. Oh, go ahead, Jodi.
Well, and now since you have to have 2 vote histories to be able to run as a candidate,
yeah,
and or get signed off by the county chairperson, which I know that this is getting in the weeds for a lot of people who don't really follow politics, but that knocks out 80% of Hoosiers from even being able to run. Yeah. And the whole reason we went to the the primary system was to do away with the party bosses at the local level, and we've just gone back to that.
Yeah. So one of the big issues in this campaign that differentiates me from my opponent, or at least one of my opponents, is he wants to close the primary system. Now here in Indiana, we have an open primary system. Yeah. And for the reasons you just mentioned, I'm in favor of keeping it open because the biggest block of voters in our state is not Democrats or Republicans. It's independents by a wide margin. And so if you close the primary system, you force people to register with a political party in order to vote in the primary. And I don't want to force that big group of people to affiliate with a party they don't agree with. Our participation is already so low in our state. It would be driven even lower if you create an additional hurdle like that. And the taxpayers funding it. If everyone pays our hard-earned tax dollars into the government to fund the system, private clubs shouldn't be able to close it off, themselves, right?
I know that George Washington warned against
political
parties.
His inaugural address.
Yeah, and I'm like, we're going so far away from that, and I understand you're going to have ideologies. I get that. But I feel like that there's a better way to identify your ideology and still have it be fair and open to the populace. And to me, I think that that's a big reason why there's voter apathy. Mm-hmm. In Clay County, I think it was in, I can't remember the year, but it was before the primary law. There were 7,600 registered voters. We had 35,000 residents in Clay County. Mm-hmm. But this was before women had the right to vote. This was before your grandfather's bill, so you had to be 21 and a male to be able to vote. So there were 7,600 voters in Clay County, registered voters. Mm-hmm. You want to guess how many people actually voted? And like I said, it was between 1908 and 1914.
7,600 voters.
7,600 registered voters.
I would say 700, 800.
7,300. There were.
Okay. So it's gone down.
It's gone down. Good. Voter participation of registered voters has gone down, even though our voter registration has gone up. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, what changed? And I think I do think it was the primary law. I think you're right that
the primary law competition. And I think I hear this all the time. I vote for these people and my life doesn't change, right? And I think a big driving force behind that attitude, which is not unfair to some extent, is that sometimes people in Washington, D.C. and Indianapolis are unwilling to work with anyone they don't agree with on every issue, right? And so I think our politics should operate just the way families operate or businesses. I mean, rarely in life are you going to be getting 100% of your way all of the time. You have to form compromise sometimes. And we shouldn't look at that like you're somehow a traitor or you're weak. It's an acknowledgement that in order to get things done and accomplish for the voter and things for the voter and the taxpayer, you got to give and take a little bit. Mm-hmm. You got to work with people, right? And I think sometimes members of both parties, certainly members of my party, take a hardline approach where I won't work with anyone who doesn't agree with me on everything. That's not what we should do, right? Yeah. Because then people say, nothing ever gets done. No one ever improves my life, and so why would I go vote if they're all the same?
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. I'm going to say something that's very controversial, and I probably won't put this on here, but I'm just going to say this. But also in the early 1900s, that was before public schools were consolidated and there were high schools and stuff. And whenever that happened, that's whenever sports became part of the high school experience. And I think the last 100 years, we have gotten into such a team mentality as a society, and that has transferred over into our politics. And I don't think politics was ever meant to be, like you said, red team, blue team, green team, orange team. I don't care. I think it was supposed to be about people and the ideas and not about the teams. And I feel like that our obsession with sports has just kind of watered down and came into our politics.
Yeah, you
too.
remember, and I was just thinking while you're talking, it's an interesting point. And I was thinking, it reminded me of a great book by this guy named Robert Putnam. It's called Bowling Alone. And
Judah gave me that book. I haven't read it. Yeah, I need to do it.
It basically tracks kind of the decline in American participation in civic life according to the equal decline in the prevalence of bowling leagues. And other organizations like the Lions Club and the American Legion and unions, and people don't join these organizations as much as they used to. And so it's basically, the argument is that when people of opposing viewpoints or opposing backgrounds don't get together as much, then they're more likely to view people they don't agree with as the enemy or as different. But in our country, we've had, at least up until the recent moment, we've had these big experiences. Think about the Second World War. Or the First World War, which is closer to the time period you were talking about, where you're in a foxhole with somebody and you're not talking about politics, right? There are bigger experiences that bonded Americans together around our love of country, our love of everything that makes our country great, and that was more important than any of these little political differences that we may have had. And so, as those experiences have become less and less common, only 1% of the country serves in the military today. Then Robert Putnam's argument is that our civic, the fabric of our civic society, civil society, is degraded as well. I don't want to spoil the book for you.
No. Now I want to go. I'm going to start it tonight. So, okay, we'll do some rapid fire, but I don't talk fast, so it won't be very rapid. Okay. Oh well, no. I want to ask one more question though. Okay. So, this is July when we're filming this. November is the election. Between now and then, there's going to be a lot of mudslinging going on. So you're too young to remember Cowboy Bob, but Cowboy Bob used to be a cartoon show that was on after school out of Indianapolis. And he would always say, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So we're gonna take on that philosopher Cowboy Bob, Indiana philosopher Cowboy Bob. And I want you to just say one thing that you admire about Lincoln Party candidate Greg Ballard, and then one thing that you admire about Republican candidate Max Engling, and one thing that you admire about Libertarian candidate Lori Schillings.
Great. So Greg Ballard is a Marine as well. And so, of course, I think very highly of his service to our country. I thank him for that, and proud to be his Marine brother, and also his legacy of service to the city of Indianapolis, the city I was born in. Max Engling is a Christian. My Christian faith is very important to me. We have that in common. He seems to love his family very much. I'd love to see that. He seems to be a great father. And Lori, I was with the other day. We were with her in, where were we? In Putnam County? Centerville? Yeah. Or in Wayne County, excuse me. And she's just said, you know what? You want to know about Lori Schillings? So hot as heck out. I was dumb, didn't bring any water. I walked by, she goes, do you want a water? I said, thank you so much, Lori. Of course I do. She was a very generous person, a kind person, and looking forward to getting all around the state with those other three.
Awesome. Okay, so now we'll do rapid fire. Okay, whenever you're listening to stuff, is it podcast music or audiobook?
It's a little bit of both. I like to listen to some audiobooks, especially when I'm a big runner, and so when I'm on long runs, the way I kind of get through it, take my mind off of it, is I listen to an audiobook typically. Okay. But music too for sure.
So what book has impacted you the most? And you can't say the Bible.
Okay. the Bible probably number one, but there's a great book it's supposedly by John Kennedy, but it's really ghostwritten in large part for him, called Profiles in Courage. And if you haven't read this, and if the audience hasn't read this, it's an easy read, only 300 or 400 pages, very simple to read. And it's each chapter chronicles a moment in American politics where someone had to make a hard but right decision that costs them dearly politically. So basically ruining your career, but doing the right thing for your country. And so it basically tracks from the founding of our country through when it was published, moments like that. And so I think anyone who's interested in getting involved in politics should take a read through that and ask yourself, am I willing to do this as well?
Nice. Okay. All right. What's on your playlist?
My playlist? So I'm my mother's son, so she was big, and my dad too. Classic rock. Love the Eagles. Love the Eagles. The Allman Brothers, Rolling Stones, kind of classic rock. John Mellencamp, obviously. I like more of today's country music. So Tyler Childers is a favorite artist of mine. Charles Wesley Godwin is a favorite artist of mine. I like Johnny Cash too, outlaw country. So I love country music.
Awesome. Okay. Who has inspired you the most? Okay. And I know the default will be your parents. Yeah. But outside of them. Well, because that should be a gimme, just like the Bible should be your favorite
book.
Of
course. The life of Theodore Roosevelt, I think, is very interesting. And he was someone who was born asthmatic, kind of a sickly child, but persevered almost through strength of his own will to become this American icon of rugged individualism and protected our public lands in the West by instituting the national parks and preserving all this amazing natural resource that we have in the Western United States, and did some really good things for our country to make it a little bit more fair. Took on some of the monopolies that were really hurting people, and making sure that we had competition in the market, which made prices lower and allowed people to compete. Sticking up for people's rights in the workplace, ability to have a livable wage, safe working conditions, ability to join a union, all those things. So I think he's someone that sticks out. And anyone who's interested, he has one of the greatest speeches of all time, the Man in the Arena speech. And it's a very, very good read. Okay.
What's the basis of your worldview?
The basis of my worldview? I'd say my faith. We as Christians follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ, the Jesus Christ that I met when I was growing up in religious school taught me to care for people who were struggling and treat your neighbor with empathy, even when you really don't want to. Love thy neighbor, love thy enemy. And so that's foundational in my worldview, that we all, regardless of where we come from, have an obligation to serve our fellow man and try and make our world a better place.
Awesome. So what's your life's motto?
Life's motto? Oh, there's Carpe Diem's a good one. I know it's kind of cliche, but seize the day. And I've just been given so many great blessings and opportunities that I wake up every morning and I try and say, how can I accomplish the mission of today? And think about a little bit about my mom when I do that, because that's the kind of attitude that she had too. Nice. It's just make the most of every moment, because you don't know how much time you have left on this earth here.
Nice. So, okay, let's go in the future. You're 30. Let's go in the future 60 years. Let's say,
Hopefully I'm still around.
Well, you're going to pass away at some point in time. Yeah. This is where we're going here. So what do you want your eulogy to be like? What do you want people to say about you? What do you want to be known for?
I'd love to be known as someone who committed his life to serving his country and his state and his community, and making it a place where hopefully my children, they can inherit a better place than I did when I was young. So I will make mistakes. I have made mistakes along my life's journey, but hopefully when it's all said and done, people will see that I've tried my best.
Beau Bayh, thanks so much for coming. You could have been a million places today, and thanks for coming to the table.
I'm glad I'm right here.
Thanks a ton. And we'll make your mom. What is it that we're making?
The Porkchops and applesauce.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was your mom's recipe?
Every Sunday we used to have that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So join us in the kitchen. All right. So Beau, we're going to do this.
Let's do it.
We're going to try to mimic your mom's apples and pork chops, or pork chops and apples.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. And there's not a recipe, so we're kind of flying on our own.
She'd be very happy we're doing that.
Okay,
good. Go with the flow. So we're really living out her spirit here.
Okay, perfect. Because I've never made this before, and you haven't either. So we're learning together here.
I've just enjoyed it a little bit. Not been in the kitchen much, but.
Okay, so this is our bacon grease bucket here at the Bee-stro. Yeah. We're serious about bacon grease. Some people, like petroleum oil or whatever. We like lard around here, bacon grease. So anyway, so we're going to just start some of that. I'm going to have you start with apples. And let me ask you this question. Did your mom? Go ahead. Go ahead. You'd start. And I've got a knife there.
Okay.
And then we can sharpen the knives just a little bit, just to make sure. That one feels good.
And you just want these in normal slices here?
Yeah. Do you remember, did your mom have skins on
You know what? I think
apples?
she did.
Yeah.
I think she did.
Yeah. We're going to go with that because I feel like
that's
easier
right.
Too. Yeah. And that just feels right.
Yeah.
So anyway, now I will tell you, I tried to get Indiana apples, but it's just a little too early. I went to Anderson Orchard. They had some Indiana apples, but
is that local here?
It's in Mooresville.
Okay.
So you should stop by because
Home
they're
of the
great.
state flag, Mooresville.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I see that every time. You know, I used to live in Bloomington, and I'd drive back to Indy, and I'd always pass through Mooresville, and I'd see that little sign, and think to myself, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. How long ago was that? Do you know that? Now I got to quiz you.
When the state flag, the state was founded in 1816,
right?
And so I assume that, I don't know for sure, but I assume the flag was adopted shortly after that. But I think we got one of the best state flags. I know I'm a little biased.
Well, I like the buffalo on it.
The yeah. Well, that's the seal where the buffalo's jumping over the.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the seal.
But that's very cool too.
See, you can tell that you're way more into state government than what I am.
Okay. Can we keep going here?
Yeah. Let's do. The recipe that I have says 2, but I think they're a little small. So let's at least go 3. Is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Okay. So the apples, I went ahead because they do have apples at Anderson. However, they were still a little soft. I mean, not soft. I mean, they were a softer apple, so it kind of broke down, didn't hold its shape once it cooked. But I did soak these pork chops in apple cider, not apple cider vinegar, but apple cider. And the apple cider is from Anderson Orchard.
Great.
So we're going to make noise and probably a mess, but that's okay.
That's good. Hot pan. That's a good sign.
Yeah. At least it sounds like we're doing something anyway.
It smells great too already.
Okay. Now we're going to do something else that's Indiana.
Okay.
This is shoops. Have you heard of shoops?
I have. Of course I have.
Okay. So we're going to, we have turned shoops a noun into a verb around here. So we're going to shoops it. We're going to shoops it. Okay. So the shoops people should really like that, right? So we're going to just sprinkle that on. And these are going to cook. We kind of want to cook them through, but not all the way.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quiz. Do you know what the internal temperature of pork is supposed to be?
I don't even want to guess.
Okay. All right. Because we don't want to kill anybody.
So it cooks a little bit when you take it out? Is that right? Is that why you leave it?
So we're going to do 2 cooks here because we're going to cook it most of the way through. And then we're going to add the apples in and onions. And we're going to let them cook and get a little tender. And then we're going to add the pork back in.
Gotcha.
But the finished temperature on pork is supposed to be 155.
155. Okay.
So.
And that gets it where it's still moist, but safety.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because we're not into killing anybody around
here. I think that's a good place to be.
That's rule number 1.
Is this good on apples, or do you want me to do one more?
I think that's great.
Okay. So walk me through why you decided to use lard and not the alternative.
Okay. So we switched to lard. I think it was last year, whenever RKJ.
Yeah.
Started talking the beef tallow and everything. And we use lard because Andy had the alpha-gal from the tick.
Yeah.
But just this last few months, he's starting to eat beef again and he's not having issues.
Fantastic.
I know.
Sure, Andy's a happy man.
Exactly. Because, it's been over, 2007 was when we figured out that he had it. So, that's, almost 20 years of having it. But anyway, that's why we decided to do lard. So when you have a breaded tenderloin here or French fries or anything like that, it's with the lard. Okay. But we use bacon grease for this just because bacon grease is, has a lot more flavor to it.
Amazing.
So you can tell that my burner's a little small here because this one's a little bit darker. And Andy can get in. Andy's the camera operator today. So Andy, if you wanted to pop in, he's afraid to move the camera. I know what he's thinking. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to let you shoot. So
I get the shoots?
You get to do the shoots. You're bourbon, the shoots.
This is a moment of placing a lot of faith in me here.
You can't really screw it up.
Yeah, you can't go too heavy on the soup.
Yeah, you can't go. Yeah.
How's that?
That's great.
Perfect.
So, all right. So what we're doing, we're going to just brown this side. Hopefully, we get to that point where we can be like around 120 or so we don't have so much time to cook on the second cook. So what's a good food memory that you have? I know that we're making something that your mom made a lot. So
I would always remember we had a grill in my backyard growing up.
Yeah.
And so on summer nights, my dad was not a cook by any means.
Yeah. But was he a griller?
He was a griller. So occasionally on summer nights he would go, but we get some, burgers and hot dogs, and we go grill out.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, he'd let me, rotate the burgers and things like that. So that was fun memory growing up with him. My mom enjoyed the night off from cooking. Yeah. And we watch a ball game or something, baseball game or something like that in the summer. So that's a good memory with my brother too. So, yeah. A lot of good memories around food. It's something that brings everybody together.
Exactly. And everybody has a food memory. Yeah. Everybody has like their favorite. I'm going to flip that over. Everybody has, kind of their birthday meal. Now you're a twin, so you had to share your birthday and your birthday meal. So how'd you guys work that out?
We just ate the same thing. We like a lot of the same things, so it wasn't too hard of a trade-off. We kind of wore all the same clothes, ate all the same things, played the same sports for the most part.
That's good.
Which
that made it easier
on
your
for
mom
my mom.
and dad.
Yeah. I don't know if it was us naturally liking all the same stuff, or it was my mom kind of guiding us. She said, "I want to make one purchase on clothes and not go everywhere to find all this random stuff."
But, you know what? I think you got your mom figured out because looky, that one we're up higher. You can tell where we're over the flame out. Okay, we're going to pause this for a second. We're going to pull these out, and then we're going to add the apples in.
Great.
Okay, so we're going to add in. We got some small onions. And then you get to do your apples. You get to add in your apples, Beau. I'm going to turn this down a little bit because we don't want all that.
You let me know when. They're good to go?
Yep, you're good. You're on.
I'm
this is your time to shine, Beau Bayh.
Hey, if this Secretary of State thing doesn't work out, you need an apple cutter in the back.
Okay, all right. I'll remember that. We used to make a bunch of apple pies and pumpkin pie and pecan pies at Thanksgiving. And Andy and our daughters were the ones that were the apple peelers and slicers. Because for apple pie, I don't want the peel on there.
Of course.
And that was, I think the most we made one year was 120 pies.
Wow.
And so, we make all of the pie crust from scratch, roll it all out and everything. And that was when we were in the little building, and our kitchen was 12 and a half by 13.
Wow.
And we made that many pies. I don't know how we did it.
My dad's favorite dessert, and mine too, is a nice hot slice of pie with some vanilla ice cream. I think there's nothing better on the planet than that.
So do you have a preference on what flavor pie?
So my dad really likes cherry pie. I like blueberry pie. I like apple pie. Around Thanksgiving, sweet potato pie is great.
Yeah.
Pumpkin pie.
I've never had a sweet potato pie.
Really? It's great. It's kind of like pumpkin.
Okay.
It's a similar thing.
I'm a big fan of the pumpkin pie, so okay, I can tell that these are already starting to feel a little tender. You want to
get me in there.
Try that.
So you like them with a little bite to them, or?
Yeah, I do actually. Okay, so I'm gonna, while you're doing that, kind of stirring that around and everything, we're gonna go ahead. And
smells great, by the way, guys.
We're gonna add in some cinnamon and some nutmeg into that mix.
There you go.
And we're going to add a little bit of rosemary to that mix.
I see the rosemary, and I remember that my mom used that as well.
Yay! So okay, so we're not too far off.
No.
We've got apples, and we've got pork chops, and we've got rosemary. we know we're there, at least on those things. Okay, and I'm going to add in 3/4 of a cup of the apple cider, and we already have. I already had in here 3/4 of a cup of chicken stock.
Great.
And I'm adding in a little bit of flour because we're going to just thicken this
it up a little bit. Yep.
And give that a little whisk. And hopefully we'll get all of the flour knots out of there. Oh yeah, that's looking good. All right.
All right, hit it.
Hopefully this won't splash this too much. There we go. Look at you. So you're single, so now all the girls know that you can cook.
You know what? I'll tell you a funny story. So we were in Princeton, Indiana, Gibson County.
Yep.
And I was holding a town hall, and you take questions from the audience, and so this older woman raises her hand. She's probably 80 years old, and she says, "Are you single?" And I said, "Yeah, I am. Do you know anyone that you could set me up with?" And she said, "Honey, I'm asking for me."
Awesome.
So she was like fanning herself. Everyone's dying laughing.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't know about the Dijon. Let's just add a little.
I think we add a little, yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
And then that's, as far as the thickness goes, that's looking good. I think we should go ahead and add those pork chops in.
Okay.
So I'll let you do that since you have the tongs in your hand.
Great.
Just set it right on top.
Just right on top there.
Now you realize this is your dad and brother are going to expect you to.
I know. I got it. I know. Which is
unless it really sucks, and then nobody's going to want you to ever make it again.
My dad's such a nice guy. He's probably like, "Oh, buddy, you did a great job." Yeah.
And let's just go ahead and put that juice. Let's just pour that juice in there too, because that looks good. That looks like that's got some flavor.
As you can't waste the juice.
Right.
Okay. Put that there.
So perfect. Now I will tell you too, the flour that we added. We're talking about making some changes here at the restaurant. Mm-hmm. We switched to Italian flour.
Okay.
In the restaurant because.
Why is that?
Because they don't use the pesticides and stuff on their wheat in the European countries like we do.
No, I always hear that actually.
Yeah. You hear about people going to Europe and they can eat the pasta
lose weight.
And everything.
Yeah. They feel good.
Yeah. So a lot of people, since we've been doing it, a lot of people who have a gluten intolerance, not like celiac or anything, they can eat our rolls and our breads and stuff like that and not have any problems.
My dad has a gluten issue, so he'd be very happy to hear that.
So see, we could make him a cherry pie and he'd be fine.
Oh, he's going to be very happy. So you want these flipped or just keep them?
Let's let them do their thing for a couple of minutes and then we'll flip them and then we'll temp them.
Great.
All right, so let's temp these bad boys, Beau.
So we're looking for 155,
155. Right? We are over. We are in the 170s. We were talking too long.
That one's about
good. That happens. Yeah, that one's good. And you're temping them at the right spot, close to the bone.
That one's good.
Yep. Awesome. It looks really good.
It does, and smells great, guys. That one's perfect. Look at that.
Yay!
One. Okay.
Woo-hoo! Okay. That looks really good.
It's delicious. Beautiful glaze on it. You can smell it.
Yes, my goodness.
I think the acidity of the apple, the kind of richness of the pork, and.
Okay, that is hot. I am going to get a paper towel to hold on to that puppy. Okay. Say again what you were saying, because I was so focused on that hotness.
I'm doing my best, Food Network impression.
I know. Here, that's what I was impressed. I needed to hear that again.
The apples have acidity to them, which is kind of, you're the professional, but I think the richness of the pork would kind of cut against that a little bit, and nice balance here.
So did you watch very much Food
Network? All the time.
Okay.
Chopped, we used to watch that one, and Iron Chef. And
did you ever watch Alton Brown?
Is that, Georgia and Atlanta, right?
I don't know where he's from, but he always talks about, like this food science behind things.
I remember him, yeah.
Okay.
He wears those horn-rimmed glasses?
Yes,
yes. I know what you're talking about.
So Sammy, who works for us in the kitchen, she is our Alton Brown. And I'm like, Sammy, I don't care about the science behind it. How's it taste,
The molecules.
But she's good. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So, anyway. Okay, it looks pretty.
It looks pretty.
If this tastes good, Beau Bayh, it's going on the menu.
Great. I love it.
All right. And it fills up the plate nice, too. Look at that.
The sauce turned out well. It's thick enough, I think.
Yeah. Perfect thickness on the sauce. Now, pork chops are one of Andy's favorites, so we're going to have to get him in here on this one, too.
No one's allowed to be biased here.
That's right.
Taste test.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the side on that one.
Perfect.
All right. Well, grab you a knife and a fork.
Choose your plate here. I'm good with this one. This looks good for me. There you go.
All right. See how this...
So you got to get the apple in there.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. I did get this. This is pork from an Indiana farm.
Okay, great.
I got it from Myers Market, and I told Mitch, the owner, Myers Market's in Greencastle.
Yeah, I was there last night.
You were there last night?
I was in at the Putnam County Fair, yeah.
Did you happen to see any of the Myers family?
I did not, but
okay.
Next time I go back.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good flavor.
You know, I like having the skin on the apple, I think. It's nice. And the apple has a good bite to it. I think if you overcooked it, it'd be a little mushy. Pork is tender. It's not too dry.
Perfect.
You've outdone yourself.
No, you have. Beau Bayh, thanks for coming and cooking with me.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you for sharing this recipe. Awesome. And I will give it to you so you'll have it now.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you. This is Jodi and Andy are the best. Please come visit them here at the Honeysuckle Hill Bee-stro. I'm Beau. I'm running for Secretary of State. And so that's a very important job here in our state. You're the chief election officer of our state. So when people participate in our democratic process, we ought to have someone in charge of this. It's going to keep things above board, only legal people voting, and make sure that those who are eligible can do so. So I appreciate it. Check out our website. It's beaubayh.com. Don't ask me to cook for you, though. I'm probably not good at that. And looking forward to meeting everyone on the campaign trail.